Hey guys, good morning. Thank you so much for joining this session. Let me share my screen real quick and we'll discuss what is that we are going to do today. Okay, so there's a meetup group, so please keep a watch on this meetup group for rest of the events which we will be doing it. And this is the YouTube channel, .NET Learners House. We already have 30, around 30 videos, and we'll be releasing more bi-weekly, or I'll see the cadence, how frequently we can release it, but we'll release it. And this is today's session. This is part of the microservices series. So without directly jumping to the microservices, what we are doing is we are first building our fundamentals on the pieces which are very much needed for the microservice, and then we'll convert all these knowledge and the source code which we create as part of different series into the microservice. Okay, this is the session 3, and let's go and see what is that we'll be looking at in the session 3. I've given the meetup URL and the YouTube link, and this is the YouTube link. And another important point is what is that we are going to cover today. And as I show this slide every time, I am still a learner, so apologize if I do any mistake. That being said, so today we have piled up some 11 events or 11 subtopics or topics, whatever we would like to call it. And we'll go over those. Just give it a minute that Postman will come. So first thing is we'll speak about the create responses, a little bit of discussion on that. And then dependency injection and inversion of control. We'll do a deep dive into that. And then enhancing the GetAllCourses API endpoint to return the unified response. If you see that we used to split in a different way, now we will do in a different way. Then previously we used to write everything in the same program.cs class. Now we will move that into different classes. Similarly, we had 3 different things. One is hello world endpoints, one is user endpoints, one is course endpoints. So we'll move that, and creating the course DTO using records, immutable type. So that means a little bit of performance improvement, and we'll discuss about the AutoMapper configuration, because we don't want to take the fields from the class, transfer it into the DTO, which is of the record type, and then spit it out. So we want to reuse the framework or the classes or the libraries which is already doing that job instead of reinventing the wheel. And we'll speak about the how do we do the dependency injection of the AutoMapper and enhance the GetAllCourses to spit only the course DTO, and we'll update the Postman collection. So let me go back to that Postman collection and microservices. And this is the school service. Yep, these are the endpoints. We have the endpoints, and I think I need to get that the school app, the environment. We'll see that all of these things again in a different way, just to see that everything is working as expected. So please fasten your seatbelt. And as I'm alone on the stream, I might be looking at this little late, but I'll try every 5-10 minutes. Just as Rupesh mentioned it last time, my speaker got muted. I don't know how, but thanks Rupesh for that. And Rupesh, this is whatever we are discussing is part of the microservice series. That means what we are doing is first 5 episodes we'll speak about how do you create a minimal API with in-memory database. Then we'll go into creating the SQL Server project. How do you upload the SQL Server project to SQL Azure, and this will be into Azure App Service, and how do you communicate. So that's the second piece. And the third piece is how do you automate it. So using the GitHub Actions. So now we will be having one microservice. Then we will create another microservice. This is just a courses, uh, like C# or Java, 5 weeks course, 10 rupees, or 12 weeks course, 30 rupees, something like that. This is a course. So then students will come into another portal where they will log in and enroll for those courses. So when they log in into that portal, then they need another web API for students and enrollment. And that we will do a full-blown web API. Now we have minimal API, one microservice, web API, another microservice. There should be a communication between service and a service. So we do the synchronous communication. That means an high HTTP client factory, like HTTP communication between the web API and minimal API. And we'll bring in the cache aside pattern, because realistically, if you see that in any computer center or in any college, how many times in a year a course object or a course entity inside the database will change? Very rarely. So why do the minimal API go and hit the database always to get the content? Why can't we write it in a Redis cache? So reading it from in-memory will be a bit faster than reaching the database. So we'll bring in the cache aside pattern. So slowly, I mean, we'll do, I'm planning to do 2 episodes or 2 sessions every month. This is a microservice series. Rest of the year we'll spend on this one, but we'll start slow. We'll call it like a season 1. We'll wrap this 5 episodes as a season 1. And next thing is we'll create a sequel project and we'll call it as a season 2. But the journey itself is the microservice, Rupesh. So we started, this is the 3rd episode. So maybe 50 episodes or 50 sessions, whatever it is, but this is part of the microservice series, Rupesh. Okay, so you can stay tuned here. You can learn microservice along with me, which I'll be teaching it. But net, the bigger picture is microservice. I'll show you 1 second. Just I need to give this is my GitHub URL, folks. Please keep this handy. So all the source code will be here. And when I'm talking about microservice, this is where the source code is here at this point of time. And not at this point of time, permanently the source code will be there itself. So why did I tell this is a microservice series? Is right now we have started with the services school. This is for the courses. Now I already created a identity system from IDEN server, and there will be the school web API. This will come in session 5. Just we'll do an integration, but we will not learn anything about Angular, but we will do an integration. And then again, we'll come back and spend 5 sessions on Angular 15 with standalone components. And you see this project I was talking, this will come in session 6. So already created, and still 5 to 6 more repositories will come. And each repository will have its own source code and its own workflow, its own Postman collection, autonomous. Independently, you can do build and test, and you can deploy it to container registry, you can deploy it to web apps, you can deploy it to Azure Kubernetes service. Tons and tons of things will come. Because this is the big picture. I wanted to call it out explicitly now that this is what we are going to do in this series. But we called it as a minimal API. I'll wrap it. The 5th session, we call it as season 1. Our course 1 part of this microservice. We'll start with the course 2. The course 2 will be SQL Server project. You see that this will work on this repository. We'll create a SQL Server project. We'll have the GitHub actions, and it will directly deploy from here to Azure portal, Azure SQL. And then we will add the CRUD operations. So that will be season 2. And season 3 is, will come back quick 4 to 5 episodes. We'll do a crash course kind of thing where we'll create the Angular app from scratch, Angular 15 app. So I just want to quickly give you, I don't want to derail that. We'll not discuss anything, but I'll show you how the look and feel will be for the, how the look and feel will be for this Angular 15 app. I just would spend 2 minutes time on that, not much. Just want to show you that how I'm dividing this into different seasons, like a course 1, course 2. Let me call course 1 or season 1. It's the same thing. Let's start the entire microservice. So that means we will be learning a lot of things. We might learn ARM template, we directly learn Terraform about it, and Kubernetes and many of the Azure services. So that's the big time investment from all of us. And I will be, whatever we will be doing, we'll be doing with the standalone components. Okay. So let's come back to our session now. Is there any queries? No queries. Cool. So this, so let's see as of now, what is that we are, and go to the course endpoint. So here we are using something known as results.ok. So there are multiple ways we can send results. So if you see the initial episodes where we did that, here if you see that we are sending it a string, and here we are sending it a generic response, which is having set of properties, whether success, some message, when did it request, and we can also add the server which catered this request. So we can do multiple things. So let's spend some time on that. So this is, it will be pretty similar, whatever the Angular student app which I was talking about. So it will be like this. You will have a overlay spinner and set of courses, and slowly we'll improvise. We'll have a rating and all those things, but the model is something similar. Exactly, it will be like this only. Okay, just wanted to show you that, and that will be standalone components, Angular 15 standalone components. Okay, now coming back to our this thing. Let me go here real quick. So see this, what we can do. We can return the data types like string or whatever we want. So I'm having some sore throat, I'm sorry. So we can send the plain text. And another thing is we can send a specific type. We tried 1 or 2 dynamic outputs and other things. And then we sent the I result. Okay. So typed results versus results. So we have seen that results and typed results, both are this static classes provide set of helper one. So see this results.ok. So this is, you're sending whatever is the specific thing you want to spend. Here the message class is the output, but also you're giving the HTTP results also, like whether it is okay or whether it is created or whether it is not found. So that is what different types which we will be sending in. So what are the built-in result types we have? Okay, when we do creation, and we can do spit JSON and text, bytes, stream, file, and created, accepted, no content. So there are bunch of these things are there. Okay. So, and also if you want to send some specific status code, there is an extension which we can use this. But what we generally use is whether it is okay or created, accepted, no content, bad request, not found, unauthorized, or any problem which you want to report it, like for internal exception. You don't want to specify that line number 45 in repository layer is failing. Instead, we will write our own custom message. We'll give the GUID saying that, hey, please speak to your administrator, give this GUID for the reference. So that's how we do this. So that is our first topic. Now this topic, dependency injection and inversion of control. This is very, very interesting. Every time I speak, it energizes me. Hope it energizes you guys also. So let's see this. This is where you have the, this is where you will have the demo script for today. And microservice, the bigger picture. See this I created a separate organization because I don't want to mix up all these repositories in my main organization. So I just created a new organization. This is where our microservices will be here. So all the repositories, currently we are focusing on this. I will rename this from school services school to services courses, because specifically this is speaking only on the courses. And we might convert this into MongoDB, and something will work with the PostgreSQL or Cosmos DB. We can convert this into Cosmos DB and Postgres, and identity system is with SQL. So right now, if you see that we will be dealing with 3 of the databases. So MongoDB or Cosmos, and we'll be dealing with PostgreSQL, and identity system is already baked in, and that too with the SQL Server. So polyglot data store, multiple services, communication between the services, tons and tons of things are there, but we will take baby step approach. Slowly we'll go. It's not, for me, the thing is we have to learn it together step by step. It's not that we'll discuss in one stretch and we'll forget anything. How do we do it? But slowly we'll do. Every fortnight we'll do one session. You guys learn it, and again we'll come back and we'll progress like this. Keep this handy, this organization where we'll be having all our microservices. Each microservice will be having its own independent repository. So there will be a Blazor server which I'll be creating in a month or 2, which will be exclusively working with this courses service as an admin piece. And the Angular client, the SPA application, is like students will log in from here and enroll to those courses, C# or MongoDB or Java. So that's a big picture. Okay. So now let's come back to our session. This is very interesting and important topic. Let's discuss on this one. So which one is that I liked a lot? Design principle and design pattern. Okay. Good. This one I liked it a lot. And yeah, this one also. I liked it a lot. So here, see this is watch on this one: inversion of control, dependency injection, constructor property interface and service locator, and it is resolving the dependencies. So that's the thing, the big picture, if you see that. So if you see this, what is this dependency injection? That's the design pattern. We'll come back and we'll spend 1 minute time on this one. But at a high level, if you see that, inversion of control, you have a dependency injection. Dependency injection can be done through constructor property injection, constructor injection, interface, service locator. And the classes A and B needs some dependencies, and that is getting resolved with this bigger infrastructure. So the class A and class B, they never say new of. Suppose if I want JWT class, these two classes will never say that where JWT object equal to new of JWT. No, we'll never say that. But our dependencies will get resolved. We'll see that, how it is getting resolved in a minute. We'll see that. And now we'll spend 1 minute time. So you see this, the dependency injection is also known as DI, is a design pattern. Okay, so here if you see that, IMapper and the leaderboard service manager, there is a parameter here, and it's getting resolved, it's getting injected. If you see that, that's a interface injection. Here if you see that, this piece is happening. So the class is expecting an interface and the framework will inject it. So that's one thing which is happening. And you can do it through constructor injection like this. And you can do the getter setter and interface implementation. That also it's happening through the constructor. If you see that, that's what I see this between this constructor. Here also you have an interface, you have a constructor, it's getting injected. Similarly, here also there's an interface, it's getting injected. There is something known as a service locator. You will register and you will get that service locator get. I'll show you this one. Okay, so an inversion of control. So if you see this inversion of control or IOC is a design pattern. Okay, it is different way of manipulating the object's control. So the inversion of control is one of the solid principle. If you see this, here he is giving directly going into this one, but let's spend 1 minute time here. So you can see this design principles. So here, inversion of control and dependency inversion principle, this inversion of control. So that is part of this design principle. So like solid single responsibility and these kind of 5 solid principles are there. So one of this thing is this inversion of control, and another thing is design pattern. Okay, so in this design pattern we have this dependency inversion principle and dependency injection. Okay, so this one is dependency injection is this design pattern. IOC containers is framework. So instead, as I was mentioning, instead of we telling like where A equal to new of JWT, we are not telling new, but the container which holds set of dependencies, and anywhere in the system, the class, any of the class needs any of these dependencies, that will be injected or resolved by the framework. So that is what this entire stuff is. See, the main objective of IOC is to remove the dependencies, moving the tight coupling between the objects of an application, which makes the application decoupled and maintainable. So we are decoupling that. That is inversion of control. And next thing is IOC containers. So this is what is happening. So if you say new, that means it's a glue. You are marrying that particular class with this object. Okay. So there are different IOC containers. Okay. Inversion of control is what the framework is taking the responsibility of resolving the dependencies. Now you're not doing new of. So there will be IOC containers. If you see that Unity, Ninject, Structure Map, Artifact, we used to use long ago. Now .NET Core is coming with its own dependency injection containers. So service, we call it as service containers. I'll show you. We have seen that in the previous episode, but I will highlight it now. So that's it. It's very simple principle. Let's go and do a deep dive into the source code. It's a very simple hello world source code. So, but I would like to show this. First, I will execute this command. Sorry, execute this code. Thank you so much, Rupesh. I am very thankful for your words. See this. This is a very simple console application. Everything is in .NET. So let's see this. First thing is, I have a couple of libraries. One is that header footer library. Very, very simple libraries. See, one will is the display footer and another interface is display header. And its concrete implementation is this one, display header. A simple mechanism. If the length is 100 and you give 25 characters of the title, so 100 minus 25 divided by 2, so splitting it that way. It's not a big thing, a very small. And doing a padding so that the text is aligned in the center or almost center. So if you see this, let's keep the output and we can discuss. So these four of logic, whatever it is being done, like see this one. That's the thing which is happening from the header class. You see this one. This header, it prints this header and it does a padding of this one. And another thing, what I have here is names generator. In this I generate name, there is one interface with one method and generate names. And this generate names, what happens is it generates the name, and based on this consonants and vowels, it does it. Sometimes it goes more than 10. I'm using the range operator here. So if it is more than, or pick the 10 characters, I'm using the range operator here. Okay. And that's what it is giving this. And footer, again, if we go back to the footer class here, that's very simple. It uses the color. So here we can override the color also. Right now, if you don't give the color, it considers yellow. And coming back to the main demo, this is another library, and it has got one interface, generate names. And what generate names is, it asks for its dependency. So it is getting the I generate names, the library which we have, this one, it's getting injected here. And we are calling get names, name length is 10, number of names. And this is a console application. This is the console application. You see that? We are creating, and this is a container where it holds all the dependencies. And we are asking to run this. That means it will come into this runnable folder and it will see everywhere it is dependency. Nowhere you will see new except this rand number. That's a different thing, but nowhere you will see new here. So it executes it. And then here is the container. We were speaking about the containers. Someone should hold all the dependencies and resolve it. So that's what is happening here. So before executing it, let's see that how is this getting built. So let's get into this configure service. And I'll put a debugger at the start. And I'll put a debugger at the last. When I execute this, let it hit the debugger. Okay, now if you come and see the services, how many services are there in this? 42. If you expand this, you'll see that what all the things which are available as part of this service. Now it was 42. Now if you go and watch 44, that means we loaded these two dependencies. So let me load all the other dependencies. And now if I come and take a look at it in the quick watch, you see this 48. So if you expand this, see that? I footer, I header, I generate names, I names array, I print helper, names array app, all these things has been loaded inside the container, service container. Now you can picturize like there is a container, inversion of control. Instead of I going and doing a new of names array or something, now I have loaded everything inside the container. That's the framework. Now the framework is taking the responsibility of giving me or resolving the dependencies. Okay, now you understood? This is a container. Now, if I come in here in the names array app, let's put the debugger here and let's execute it. At this point of time, if you see that all these things are null. Now, when we go and do a step by step, see this, these dependencies are getting injected or these dependencies are resolved. So there are two pieces of the puzzle. The first piece of the puzzle is the container which holds set of dependencies. And the second piece of the puzzle is dependency injection. Whoever in the system that needs the dependency, the framework will go and look at it, the container. Hey, I have this. You're asking for inames array. I have it in my container. You take it. So that's what it is giving. And rest of the programs get executed because you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything there. I think this is creating some problem. I will look at it later because it's becoming a problem in our way. So now you guys understood. So you have a container dependencies, and throughout the system, wherever you need the dependencies to be resolved, like dependency injection, maybe through interface or through constructor, through property or through service locator or different mechanisms, you have that dependency injection. But those dependencies are getting resolved by this container. So services collection, iServices collection. This itself is a container. See this, specifies the contract for a collection of service descriptors. You have that, this everything. So you can now come back to this and see that, oh, okay, dependency injection is a design pattern. Whoever needs it, I need to give it or resolve it. Now, who holds these dependencies? That is IOC container. There is a container which holds all these dependencies. Now, inversion of control, instead of we saying new off, we are offloading this responsibility to the framework. Hey, I need this, give it to me. So that's what is happening. So hope this was a good demo. So let's go to the next one. This one, I'm sorry, there is some music. Ooh, I missed the number. Did I miss something here? Okay, this one. Let's see. Now I'll close this as this demo is over. Now, if you come and see this, our program class is much smaller and leaner than what it was previously, because we used to have all the endpoints. Now what we do, we moved this endpoints to a separate class. We'll come back to that one. But before that, let's see that. Enhancing the get courses to return the unified response. Okay. So previously we used to send the list directly, but we will be doing the unified response. For the time being, I'll put it here. Okay, so we call it as I call it as this one. Let's take this and keep ourselves ready. So let's execute this. Let's wait. Okay. Now, when I go to this one. Oh, there was a double slash. I'm sorry. So it comes here and it creates a unified response. See that? It has got data, it has got two records. Date requested, it's giving current date and time UTC. And then the message, we can add more. I mean, suppose if you have the multiple servers, server A, B, C. So which server has catered this request and the context go it, there'll be a lot. I mean, this will not be useful for user, but it's like service to service. There is a backend service which is hitting the server, getting the content. For them, it might be useful, or to do a distributed tracing. So a lot of things it will be useful, but for us, what is important is only this data field. This property is important for us. But rest of the structure is same. Whether you do get all courses or get course by ID, add a course, modify a course, delete a course, for any operation, if you see the response is coming in a structured way, like it will have, I just put it success and message. It might be the redundant, but I just put it. But other things will come in future where we might need to have a context. So the same context ID will be spread across the different layers. So distributed tracing and which server has catered and date requested or some other things might come. I don't know, but I'm just, we started becoming good citizens and splitting this one. Okay, that was one concept which I wanted to discuss. So I will delete that code afterwards, but let's do step-by-step experimentations. Some festival going on, so you might hear some background noise. Now, this is very, very good things. Route handlers. So if you come to this route handlers, we already saw that app. You have get, post, and all these things. You can have it, and these methods we can run. And we have seen different, we have seen the instant method, local function, lambda expressions. We have seen everything. And static method, I'm not sure whether we have seen it or not, but rest of the things I'm sure we have seen that. And the route parameters also we have seen in the user methods where we expressed it. And the route constraints, we didn't use it. We will come back and we will use it in future. But the important thing is route groups. Okay, so this route groups, if you see this, so here what is happening is you can create a bunch of routes and push it to an extension method. So that's what we will be doing. So this particular piece, if you see this particular piece, yes, if you see this particular piece, I recall doing something pretty similar in Node.js, maybe in 2020 or 2021 or 22, I think. Let's see, there should be a speaker series here. If I'm not wrong, I have done pretty similar in the Node.js world also. So there was maybe that's on 2020 if I'm not wrong then. Oh, there itself it's there. There itself it's there. I'm sorry. So that's for the year 2020 in azconf. Insert the source code. That's the web API. What way did I do that? Let's wait for 1 minute. If I'm not getting, then we will. Here, the main stack. Right. I remember doing it, the web API. And inside the source, and there you go, the routes. The book routes. So this is like a route group where you will have a single function or a class where you'll have a group of routes. Like use this one and this one. This is what I was talking about. Like book route, book router dot route books, like post and get, and for one route get, put, and delete. So you can, I was able to compare this grouping of routes over here to the Node.js. Like if you see the pattern, like get, put, and delete, the pattern is same. If you come back and observe this, books, with books I can do get all books or post a book with one route. Books and a particular book ID, get the book by ID, update the book by ID, delete the book by ID. So now we can see this here with get and post, we have a single route, and get by ID, modify by ID, delete by ID is in one route. So we also did something similar, which we did it in Node.js world. Like if you see, these are different routes. So let me go to that constant class, these routes. But when it comes to the user route, it will be either users, like API users, what verbs we can hit, that we can use for post or we can use for get, like get all users or add a user to these users. Now by ID, like slash API slash users slash ID, this is get user by ID or update user by ID or delete user by ID. Similarly, courses, now this, when you add the ID prefix, it can be used for get by ID, update by ID, delete by ID. So you can compare this with the Node.js or similar other backend services, technologies where you use it for the backend service. Okay, so that was just a context I was giving, but let's come back and see that how are we moving this. So we did use an extension method, Endpoint route builder. Let's come back to this case. Oh, one of the author which I refer, Sean, his articles or his video courses will be very, very wonderful. So see this. What is this Endpoint route builder interface? So what does it do? Defines a contract for a route builder in an application. A route builder specifies the routes for an application. So, this is the one which we are using to create our extension class. So what did we do is we just created an static class and one static method, and that endpoint endpoint route builder. Now let's come back to the program.cs and let's uncomment this for a minute. You see that here? Endpoint route builder. The map get is coming from Endpoint route builder. We just wrote an extension method. We didn't do anything new. What did we do? We just wrote an extension method for Endpoint route builder. Technically, whatever we are doing inside the program class, map.get, you see that map.get is from Endpoint route builder. It's same. The line number 28 to 33, whatever we are doing there is equivalent to whatever we are doing here in line number 11, because we just wrote an extension method. Now routes will have the same map get or map post or whatever it is. So net what it is, instead of writing the things and cluttering the program.cs, we know that what is the interface with which we are getting it. We just created a separate static class and an extension method and moved the specific routes to a specific classes. So that way, it's a little bit organized. Now you see this 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 routes has been moved, and we said that map hello world endpoints, we're calling it. So that means inside that there are 4 endpoints. And again, the user endpoints, we moved it into this one. Same concept, a static class, an extension method, and we are prefixing it. We're having those 2 methods, nothing different. And similarly, the course endpoint, we have a static class, we have an extension method. Here we are adding the prefix. There will be some cleanup, which we'll be doing in the next episode. But for this episode, it will be like this. And we'll bring it. So that's now what is the benefit of doing is, like separation of concern, like different endpoints are being grouped into different classes. So if I want to modify a hello world, one of the endpoints in hello world, I just need to go and specifically look into that particular endpoints class and modify. Here we are not having this classes. Okay, sorry, controllers. Here we are not having controllers. Instead, we are calling it as an endpoints because purely it's just an endpoints, and we are going in there and hitting it. Okay, so that's one point. And another point is, how do we turn this entire solution into layered architecture? That will come in episode 6. You have to wait for 3 episodes. At that time, what will happen is the school API will have only 2 or 3 folders. One is endpoint and one is extension class. Everything will move into its own respective libraries. There'll be a 4 to 6 libraries will be there. It will be fun. Just wait for some more time. Let's learn step by step. So that piece is done. Now, extension classes, we have seen that. Now, record. Now let's spend 1 minute time on the record data type. For some reason, what's this classes? I always love to go and get the documentation directly from the site. I don't do documentation, and purely I'll focus on hands-on. For some reason, I love that. Okay. This one we have seen it. Is output still there? Oh no, we have seen there. So see this. The main difference between the class and record in C# is that the record has the main purpose of storing data, while the class defines responsibility. Records are immutable. That means if you populate a record, you create a record, afterwards you don't need to change that. So in that case, let's use the record, which is an immutable. So once you create the record, you're not going to change it. So, and I heard that it is a little bit faster also. So that's what we are doing it. So while creating record also, you can create it in different types. So I think I have shown that flavor here. I'm not sure, but let's see that. I think I have done it. Yeah, I've done it. See this. This is a record. We can define like beautifully with this getters and setters and all these things. Or simply you can specify a record in a single line. You have 50 properties, put it there, all the properties. So you're saying that public record person DTO, string ID, and string name. You see create course DTO, a record, I put it this one. And can I extend this? Definitely. The create DTO, I put it in this manner. Now course DTO is having GUID one step more than that, and it is extending this one. So I'm showing multiple ways you can create records. Okay, so that's one thing. Endpoints, everything we moved it. I think I made a blunder mistake. 2 mistakes I think I made it. One is numbering. Yeah, that's the only one. Now, let's come to the AutoMapper. Let's come to this AutoMapper. There are 2 important topics we have to discuss. One is this AutoMapper. So if you go and see, you need to have AutoMapper extension Microsoft dependency injection. Close all. And what you have to do is you have to create a class, extend it from profile. And here you create a map. So this is a class. and this is a record. So I'm saying that, hey, if someone gives me a course class, can you convert that into course DTO? Yes, I can. And similarly, someone, if they give me class course, can you convert into create course DTO and vice versa? I set the reverse map also. So that's there. Now, where do you inject this? You will inject it here. This is the container, IOC container. Now, if you come back to this endpoint, the course endpoint, you're getting this course and this IMapper. We have seen, we did a deep dive into the dependency injection. Now we will see everything in live. The next 5 minutes is very, very important, folks. Please observe. Undo the changes. And let me do any of the cleanup and do a quick build. Is it ready? No. Why is it taking that much time? Come on, give me the control. Okay, it's clean. Nothing in here. Let's go. Why is my machine a little slow today? Okay, let's come back to understand the service container one more time. I'll put a debugger here. Now start with this. Come on, just give me a minute. I'll have a glass of water. This guy is troubling me today. You see this? There are 90 dependencies. And definitely the school DB context is not one among them because we didn't pass through that statement till now. These are other dependencies. Now I'll pass through that and I'll pass through the AutoMapper. Just before getting into the build, now let's go and do a quick watch into this. Now see this 96. You see that? The school DB context, IMapper. So like DB options and IMapper, those are being loaded in the container. Now I go and hit F5. So now if you come back to the previous where we were speaking about the container, now all the dependencies has been loaded here. Now if I'm executing any of those endpoints, what was the endpoint? That was the course endpoint. Let me put a debugger here, and that is API courses. Okay, so that is, if I come in here slash API, see this has been populated, and also IMapper has been populated. So that means the dependencies has been resolved. So how did those got resolved? Because we already given this dependencies loaded inside the container. Now wherever you ask for those dependencies, those are getting resolved from that container. Okay. Okay, I think I'll remove these one, and I think there was unintentional enter from my side. I will close that and remove the debuggers. I removed the debuggers. That's done. And what is the final thought? Yeah, let's see this. When we compare this with the previous one here in the get courses, to have time. Now it doesn't show the date time because it's there in the class. But see this, but what we are splitting only ID, course ID, name, duration, and description, because that's what we created those record DTOs. So if you get into the data, see the course, and if you compare that, ID is coming from the course DTO, and rest of the properties is coming from create course DTO. So the create course DTO is a parent and the child is course DTO. So the ID is coming from the course DTO, but the course ID is coming from create DTO. Name, it's coming from the create course DTO. Duration is here and the description is here. But net, we are using course DTO to spit it out. So that way what is happening is we are not sending the information which might not be relevant, or we don't want to send those information out. If you see the base entity, it has got an ID, created date, created by, modified date, and modified by. And apart from that, these are the some of the things. The user doesn't need to know that when it got created, who created it, who's the employee in that company who created this. He doesn't need to know. And there might be something else also which user might not need to know. Or like if assume that internally from the organization perspective, some guy is teaching that course that might be there in the record, but we don't need to give it to the user, or we might, I don't know, but that depends upon the use case in which you are working. Okay, so with that exercise, see, I given the Postman collection also here in the repo. So please feel free to grab that and practice it. So what is there for the next session? So for the next session, we have piled up another set of new things to learn. We'll add Swagger dependencies, and we'll be creating the business layer and also repository layer. So right now what is happening is the endpoint is getting the DTO injected, the DB context injected. But what we will do is we'll move that logic to the repository layer. So the repository layer will speak to the DB context, and the business layer will speak to the repository, and the endpoints will speak to the business layer. So business layer will talk to the repository layer, which in turn goes and talks to the DB context and gets it. And also we will further improvise the class, the program class, and make it very sleek, or maximum of 10 lines. You have 10 endpoints. Wow, sounding pretty good. So thanks so much for joining this month's session, and speak to you guys in fortnight from now. Today is 19th. When is the next session? Minimal API, that is on 5th March. Okay, so see you guys on 5th March at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much. Have a good and safe weekend, folks. Bye.